Right, whenever you're ready.
Hi, so I'm going to be presenting my speech today, and the topic is going to be on gun control. So I'd like to start with a couple of paragraphs I wrote, a couple of short paragraphs. 372. That's the highest number of mass shootings that's ever occurred in 1 year, recorded in America in 2015. A mass shooting is an incident in which 4 or more people are killed or wounded. And in 2015, 475 people were killed and 1,870 were wounded. This topic's getting too severe, and instead of expressing our emotions and showing our condolences on social media, we should be doing something about it, such as speaking up. The shocking number should be enough indicator that something has to be done. Now, 5 women are murdered with guns every day in the United States, and a woman's risk of being murdered increases by 500% if a gun's present during the encounter. It's time for us to wake up and put a stop to all of this, and without new laws being enforced, nothing's going to change. Unfortunately, there are many misguided individuals in our society, and I know for a fact we as a society would be better off if they had less access to guns. Now, my major claim is going to be, if gun control laws are made more strict, the number of people dying by firearms each year would significantly decrease. And I'm going to support this major claim by 3 secondary claims. A being, there are too many incidents where someone ends up badly injured or dead as a result of a firearm being present. B, regulating gun laws would reduce the number of suicides by at least half the amount. And C, providing necessary regulation on all public and private gun sales will result in a lower death rate from firearms. Now, there are too many incidents where someone ends up badly injured or dead as a result of a firearm being present. This year's death consisted of 11,208 homicides, 21,175 suicides, and 505 deaths due to accident or negligence. And according to PolitiFact.com, about only 3% of murders and crimes are committed with guns that are actually legally purchased. So, yeah, 97% of the time where someone dies from a gun, it's not registered at all or not under the person's name. And that just shows it's too easy to gain access to a gun, even if you had the wrong intentions with it. So why not regulate them? There's no harm in running background checks to see if the person has any previous criminal records or anything. Now, moving on. B, by regulating gun laws would reduce the number of suicides by at least half the amount. In 2014, 42,773 Americans killed themselves, according to the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, and half did so with guns. So that's not only more than the number of Americans who were killed in mass shootings, but it's more than the number of people who were killed with guns in homicides and accidents. Now, America must be doing something wrong, because the fast-rising U.S. suicide rate is in sharp contrast to what's happening in other developing countries, where suicide rates have declined significantly over the past decade. As a matter of fact, USA is the only developing country in the world where US suicide rates are still inclining instead of declining, and that goes for all types of suicide. Now, lastly, C, providing necessary regulation on all public and private gun sales will result in a lower death rate from firearms. The Law Center to Prevent Gun Violence conducted a study in which I found to be unbiased, and it compared the averages of states where background checks are required for all gun sales, including private ones, and the average gun-related homicide rate per 100,000 people among gun control states was 3.31, which was significantly lower than that with no regulation, which was 4.28. Now, moving on. In 1996, Australia was facing a similar problem that America is today, and that's that too many people were getting killed. And so they passed the 1996 gun control law and buyback program, and that was followed by a faster drop in gun deaths that would otherwise be expected. So if it worked for them, why won't it work for us? I mean, it's all the same. And lastly, the U.S. has by far the highest number of guns in the world. The number of civilian-owned firearms in the U.S. was 88.8 guns per 100 people. And the second highest is Yemen, which is a city torn by civil war, and that's 54.8, which is a significant difference. Now, even though it won't prevent all gun deaths from happening, it will certainly help. Thank you.
All right, very quick on that. Structurally, everything's fine. Your proposition is clearly stated. You have a good preview. The individual points are laid out pretty well. The evidence that you present, there's a bunch of factual data. You don't always give a source citation for that factual data. The same is true for all of the supporting points. There are a couple places where you did. PolitiFact, for instance, at the beginning of the first point, you had that. The Law Center study, you cite that. Everything else, though, is largely presented without any source citation, so you want to be more consistent about doing the source citations. The information that you had on the first point seems to contradict the whole position that you're taking. If all the guns that are involved in crime are obtained without going through the legal channels, how do you fix that by the laws that we have? That seems like it's counterintuitive to the point that you're making there. The suicide issue, there's not really an explanation about how that would be addressed by this information. That the suicide rate is going up in the United States, that's fine, but there's not really any demonstration that that's related to the number of guns or the ability of people to purchase guns, and the notion that, people wouldn't be able to commit suicide if they weren't allowed to buy guns. I don't know how you put those two things together. There needs to be more explanation there. And like I said, a couple of citations, the Australia data and the comparison between the United States and other countries on the gun rates. I'm sure that there's a source for it, but you're just not presenting it in the argument. You need to do that. Okay.